one of the reasons many people feel stuck is because they are overcomplicating things. So focus on the 3 things that'll move the needle.
1 is too few, 5 is too many. Find the 3 that you think are most important for you in this chapter of your life right now and try to stay on target.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was episode number 1460, one powerful way to overcome your fears. Today, for episode number 1461, what are your big 3? What can we do for you?
Nothing. I'm in a good mood.
Giggles McGee over here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As I mentioned, Alan, on our previous episode, I was spending a lot of time with family because of Memes, and Memes is now doing really well. She's in rehab, getting her hip worked on, so all things ended up going better than expected. But it was quite scary for me because that was the most amount of time I have taken off probably since we started this.
Mm-hmm.
And I had planned on traveling, but I was still going to batch my WhatsApp every day, and there were still things I was going to do. I was waking up and going down to the hospital and then staying there and then going to my mom's house and then going back to the hospital. So I was very much off the grid for pretty much an entire week. And I ended up going and seeing one of my buddies, Matt, and he said, how do you know what to do every day? He said, if you were only going to do like 3 things because you're spending time with your family, what would you do? And I said, well, for me, we're pretty clear on it. I've designed this myself. I didn't need any help in designing almost anything we have over here at NLU. So I came up with this pretty easily by myself. Now, Alan came up with this. And I said, 1, so if we were to say just 3, 1 would be get exposure to a new potential client. 2 would be try to convert somebody to a client. And then 3 would be client delivery. Make sure that I check WhatsApp and make sure that everything at NLPS is going well and all 50 of the podcasts. Yes.
Client over delivery.
Client over delivery. Yes. I could have said that and he would have been mind blown. He would have went, wow, you really know what you're talking about. I don't, obviously. Can't even get it right. But those are the 3 things that I have focused on in the past week and a half. And it's given me a lot of certainty. Now, again, Alan's behind the scenes working and we have an amazing team. So it's not just Alan and I. And I also remember, and I never believed this when I saw it. It was an interview with someone, some successful entrepreneur, and the interviewer said, what do you do every day? And they said, I have 3 big rocks that I move. I make sure that I move 3 big rocks and then I'm pretty much all set for the day. I'm not saying you should do that because my 3 rocks, or the G3 target, as Alan named it, would have been drastically different in the beginning of the journey. 5 years ago, it wasn't those 3 things because we didn't have any clients, there was no over-delivery, and there was no way to make money in the very beginning. That wasn't the way it would be set up. So be very careful when you see this type of stuff online because it's different for everybody. It's different for you where you are on your journey. It's different for the season of what you're doing. There's a lot of things that go into that. But I thought it would make for a really good episode because you don't necessarily have to get really, really, really good at everything. If you're good at 3 things, if you're really focused on 3 things, you might move the needle on one big thing. So I thought it would be a valuable episode to do based on the fact that it's very appropriate for what I've been doing for the last week.
So this is a fundamental in my coaching that I've been working really hard with all my clients to get them honed in on what I call my G3 target. And it's essentially a genius zone. So it's just like the store Target, the logo. It's 3 different layers, G1, G2, G3. And the idea underneath this is that everybody can be very, very successful by getting really, really good at basically 3 things. And the example I always use is Taylor Swift. If you took away country singing, you took away dancing, and you took away guitar, you would take away 99% of her impact and her profitability. And I do believe that all of us can have a career where we hone these things. Now, to Kevin's original point, you can't start a business or start a podcast or start anything with going into it going, I'm only going to do 3 things. No, the point of the G3 target is I'm going to focus proactively on these 3 things while knowing that I'm going to have to do these other miscellaneous things along the way. At the very beginning of Kevin and I's journey, we were probably 2 years in, maybe 3. We had the studio, I'll never forget it, and we did what's called a time audit. We were overwhelmed as it gets. We only had a couple people on the team at that stage. And I said, let's sit down and let's do a time audit. And we went in front of the big whiteboard that we had in the studio at the time, and we wrote out everything we do on a week-to-week basis. And we actually tracked the amount of time. And there's 168 hours in a week, and we came out with basically, between the 2 of us, I think we had maybe 12 hours of those 168 that weren't completely accounted for. And we realized this is not sustainable. We are going to burn to the ground, and we can't do this. So one of the cool things about the G3 target is that you can hone these things and move the needle on these things and focus on these things, and it's going to be responsible for a majority of your success in whatever endeavor. But you just have to know along the way you're going to have to do other stuff too. So I'll give you some examples because we want to lead by example. So Kev just gave his. My G1, G2, and G3 is G1 is coaching, which is one-on-one coaching. G2 is speaking. This includes monthly meetups. This includes book club. This includes speeches that we give in person. This includes relationship talks, virtual events that I do with Emilia. It includes anything that's one-to-many. So coaching is always one-to-one. It also includes podcasting. Right now I'm speaking, okay, one-to-many. So G1 is one-to-one, G2 is one-to-many, G3 is writing, and G3 for me is one-to-scale. You don't have to do the one-to-one, one-to-many, one-to-scale thing if you don't want to. If you need help with this, please reach out. Happy to help. I want to give another example of a client. I have most of my clients doing this right now because all of them are very, very busy and they felt spread too thin, and these are what are called the top leverage points, where if you focus on these things, these are what's going to move the needle most. So I'm going to use Bianca as an example. Bianca's G3 target is, number 1 is teaching, number 2 is therapy, and number 3 is writing. And so the idea is ask yourself the question, maybe one of them is family, maybe one of them is fitness, and then maybe one of them is your career. I have a client who's doing that. It's fitness first, actually. So G1 is fitness, G2 is family, G3 is career. Now, here's why for that particular client. And if that client's listening, you'll know who you are. Fitness is first because that's where her self-esteem is tied. When she's winning in fitness, her self-esteem is high. When her self-esteem is high, her relationship flourishes. When her relationship flourishes, her career flourishes. So again, design this however you'd like. And if you need help, seriously reach out. This is really something that I love and I'm really good at, is helping people dissect what are the 3 things that are going to move the needle. I actually did a bunch of that today. But at the end of the day, you don't have to get good at 5,000 things. You don't. You don't have to be good at 5,000 things. Not in today's economy. I have some people that are good at 1 or 2, 3 things, and they're really, really, really successful. If you're a world-class video editor, you probably do really well, and you don't have to get that good at many other things. Now, I know that's weird coming from us on a holistic self-improvement podcast. We're not saying not to also be fit, not to be healthy, not to also be wealthy, not to be in love as well. We're not saying not to focus on your relationship. What we are saying is that you can choose 3 things for this quarter or this year that you really want to hone in on and start winning at. And if you need help, reach out.
Well, and you'll also notice, at least for you and I, that's mostly business stuff, right? My G3 target is business.
Same.
So it's podcasting, podcast coaching, and sales. Those are my 3 things I'm focused on the most, but that's in the business. I still go to the gym and all that, so I can understand how it might come off as we're not focused on that. The other thing I wanted to add was I wouldn't be able to just focus on those 3 things over the last week if we hadn't been doing so many other things for the past however many years. And if I only focused on those 3 things, a lot of things would crash and burn. Not completely, but they wouldn't grow at the rate that I'd like them to grow. So just be very careful when you hear people say, well, these are the only 3 things I do, because they're not. And let's put it this way, they might be the only 3 things that they do, but it's not the only 3 things that are getting done. Just because they're not doing them does not mean they don't have somebody helping them with it or taking care of it, or whatever it may be. So just be very, very careful about that, because there are going to be things that you have to do that you don't necessarily want to do, and there are going to be things that aren't necessarily in that bucket. What would be a good example? Put you on the spot here. What is the typical expectations of somebody who comes to you as a client? They're a dream chaser / early business owner. So say somebody is a interior designer. What are their 3?
Sales is almost always one of them. Or you can call it SRB, strategic relationship building. One of them is it's very similar to what yours are at an LPS. So what were yours at an LPS? There was
podcasting, podcast coaching, and sales.
Yeah, but at the beginning you shared 3.
Well, yeah. Exposure. So exposure to somebody new, right? I'm Kevin. I'm a podcast coach. I'm a podcaster, whatever. Conversion. So following up with that person and saying, hey, we also have Next Level Podcast Solutions. And then over delivery. If you are a client, when you become one, I want to make sure I actually deliver. So it's almost meeting new people, getting new people who want to be clients, over delivering for new clients, rinse and repeat that forever. Hopefully.
Yep. That's the exact answer for anyone who wants to be an interior designer. The only thing that's different is what the delivery looks like. So instead of delivering podcast production, they would be delivering interior design. But it's the same basic principles. All of us, that's one of the things that you find when you coach so many people. It's the same fundamental principles.
Yeah.
If you want to build muscle in the gym, eat in a surplus, weight train, and make sure you stay mobile and sleep well. It's very similar.
Yeah.
And that's the advice I would give to pretty much anyone. Now, there's certain nuances, obviously, that change, but when it comes to the big 3 things, start with any 3 that you think are really important, and then just tweak it along the way. I mean, I've tweaked mine a bunch of times. I revisit this constantly.
Yeah, for sure.
My name is Nathan Schwarman. I'm from Lawrence, Kansas. I've been a client of Alan's for coming on 2 years now, and I really can't recommend his program enough. Alan's always there for me with great advice and holding me accountable every step of the way, and really leading by example. I've grown a lot in his program, but he's grown alongside with me, so I'd really recommend joining up on the program and joining the community.
There was a client who I was working with who is taking time off, but him and I are on really good terms, and he's a buddy of mine. And I reached out to him and I was like, hey, how's everything going? I know you said you wanted to start back up. What's going on? What's new? And he said, and this is very telling. So if you find yourself in this position, just stick with it for a second. He said, over the last couple of weeks, I've had dozens of calls with different coaches and nothing seems to be working. My belief is that it's because he's just not doing the right 3. I know he's doing at least one of the 3 things he should. He was podcasting. He's not as much now. But he hasn't actually followed up on the other 2 things that he should be doing. I'm certain of it because we've had those conversations. If you feel stuck, it might not be because you're not putting in the enough effort. It might be because you're not putting in the specific effort in the specific way, in the specific bucket you should be. And that can be very frustrating, obviously.
Even something as simple as being a fitness coach. Number 1, post on social media, motivating and inspiring fitness content. Number 2, batch your direct messages. Number 3, over-deliver for current clients and or get more clients. You can break it down into, I always say 1 is too few, 5 is too many. There's a book called The One Thing. I think it's a powerful concept, but no. You can't just do one thing. I do think that the majority of your success in whatever goal you want to achieve is going to come down to 3 things. I'll give a couple more just real quick examples. If I want to lose weight, I need to eat in a deficit, eat less calories than I burn. That's number 1. Number 2 is I need to weight train and or exercise with cardio. So exercise is number 2. And then number 3 would be weigh myself every day. Make sure that the scale is moving in the right direction. And if it's not, adjust number 1. So it's a very, very powerful tool. And that's why our habit tracker has 3 things that you track. I have one client of mine, her name's Brenda. I have her tracking her 3, her G1, G2, and G3, and that's it. She's not tracking any of their habits. And she has a $500,000 business. It's awesome. It really is these simple fundamentals that we just don't do consistently. And so the key is, what are they? Can you do them consistently? And then can you get better at them? Obviously, Taylor Swift couldn't be like guitar, singing, and dancing and then be like, oh, okay, I'm good. No, she has to do them over and over and over and get better over and over and over. So, for us, imagine if you took away even just this podcast, most of our success would go away. So it's just really important to understand what are the 3 leverage points and how do I stay focused. I always tell my clients, I want me in your ear and I want you throughout the day hearing me say, stay on target, stay on target, stay on target. One of my clients actually said, can you send me an audio with you just repeating that? I never did.
It's oftentimes one of the 3 is the one thing that you hate the most.
Definitely.
And I think that's why I've worked with so many podcasters who they're frustrated with their lack of results, and I'm frustrated with their lack of effort. And I don't think that's not a coincidence. I've told, and do I know everything? No, of course not. But I know a lot more than most podcasters, right? At this point. And I'll just say, these are the 3 things. You just have to do these 3 things. Just let's keep doing them. And they'll say, well, no, I stopped doing this thing. It's like, that's what's wrong here. It's not the coach. It's not the algorithm. It's not these things. So if you find yourself saying, and I hear this all the time, and I know you probably do too, I know I should be doing blank, but I'm not. There's a reason you should be doing blank. I always use the dog shelter thing. If you want to start a dog shelter, if you want to start a charity, you should probably stay focused on researching charities and what that means. And how does it all work? How does a charity work? How does a nonprofit work? That would be very beneficial. Understanding the legalities around that are probably super important. Looking for real estate that would fit that is probably super important. And then getting whatever certifications you need, like that type of stuff. But a lot of that stuff sucks. A lot of that stuff isn't fun.
Oh,
it's not
of course.
Right?
You
It's
didn't
not the
say
fun
a single
stuff to
fun
do.
thing there.
No, I didn't say anything about petting puppies. You don't get to pet puppies yet. You get to pet the puppies after you.
That's
after
the
you
fun
find
part.
the stuff. Yeah, that's the fun part. So if you ever find yourself saying, I know I should be doing blank, but I'm not, what I have seen, and I'm curious to your take, what I have seen more often than not is that's the stuff we should be doing.
Definitely.
That's the stuff we don't talk about this often on the podcast because it's probably not relevant to many of you, whether you're watching or listening. But we have a department called Next Level Social Media where we do our clients' social media for them. One of the reasons we started that is I heard so many podcasters say, I know I should be posting on social media, but I'm not. Mm-hmm. It's going to be very hard for you to win if you don't do that. So we ended up starting a department to help them do that. But a lot of people don't like posting on social media. It makes sense because that's one of the big things that most of us need to do now more than ever.
Yeah, this is a good distinction. One of them is probably something you love. One of them is probably something you do want to do. And then one of them is probably something you hate. So another example for me in fitness is I want a great physique. I love weight training and I love food. I love eating, but I hate mobility. Mm. And so I need to eat the right amount of food. I need to weight train and I need to do mobility. And I'm only doing 2 of those 3. I'm actually doing all 3 as of last night. But the point is one of them is going to be a struggle bus. It is. I want you to feel permission on this. Okay, even on my G3 target, coaching, speaking, and writing, I adore coaching. I do love speaking. I kind of hate writing. I'm not saying that I'm still called to do it. People say, well, why would you do it if you hate it? Because I'm supposed to do it. I'm called to it. Just because I have resistance and just because it's hard doesn't mean I don't need to be doing it. It's very much, I think there's something to be said for a permission slip of, listen, it's okay for you to hate yoga. I know some people who hate weight training and love yoga. I know other people who love weight training and hate yoga. It's okay. Just own it and do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's super empowering. I might be alone in that, but
I agree. I would understand and empathize with anybody who doesn't find it super empowering, but I do, again, we are of the belief that you're going to have to do some stuff you don't want to do. It just is that way. Even if you want to make pizza, you still got to preheat the oven and you still got to make the pizza and you got to go to the store and get the stuff and you got You got to wait for it, and you got to test it, and you got to let it cool off. Like, even in pizza, there is suck.
Not if you order Domino's.
You still got to order it, and you got to wait. And if you don't do contactless delivery, you have to speak to them with your mouth, person to person.
Click. One click, contactless delivery.
Cost you money.
That's true. See?
Cost you money.
It's expensive. It's actually not that bad.
Yeah, I was going to say all things
That's why they're so successful.
This episode sponsored by Domino's.
Domino's.
Next level nugget before we go, sir.
The next level nugget is 1 is too few, 5 is too many. Find the 3 that you think are most important for you in this chapter of your life right now and try to stay on target.
My next level nugget would be, believe it or not, I think one of the reasons many people feel stuck is because they are overcomplicating things. So focus on the 3 things that'll move the needle. Yeah, that. And you can always add, you can always change, you can always subtract, but a lot of people are juggling too many things. And it's also really hard to know what's making the difference. Definitely. Imagine you have a recipe, and instead of adding 1 new thing, you add 7. Like, all right, I'm going to add salt, pepper, garlic. We're going to throw some cheese in there. I'm going to throw tomato sauce. I'm going to throw an egg, and I'm also going to throw chocolate. Like, all right. I have no idea.
If it comes out good, you're like, I have no idea why. And if it comes out bad, you also have no idea why.
If it comes out good, chocolate. Yeah. If it comes out bad, not enough chocolate, most likely. Is what I would say. Next Level Nation. If you are looking for a community of amazing human beings who value holistic self-improvement, self-awareness, hyper-consciousness, removing the negative parts of the ego, becoming a better partner, all of those things, that is our private Facebook group, Next Level Nation, in a nutshell. Please join. The link will be in the show notes below.
So I was going to talk about the blog, and there is a latest blog number 9, that is how to transform yourself and your life. And while I do know that's very, very powerful, and I highly recommend it, I would rather actually talk about booking a half-hour call with me. If this G3 target was overwhelming and confusing, I understand. Let's get on the phone and let's talk about it. Click the link in the show notes. It will bring you to my Calendly, and you can book a half-an-hour session, and we will unpack what are your goals and what are the 3 things that are going to move the needle towards your most important goal. And that way you can give yourself the permission slip to, and I say this at NLU all the time to the team members, I say, listen, stay on target. You can let things fall outside of this target. But in this target, and even when you were going to go to Belgium, I basically said, Kev, all I ask is you don't let these 3 things fall while you're away. And you said, my goal is to make it seem like you don't even know that I'm away. And if you're confused about what those G1, G2, G3 needs to be, just reach out. Happy to help.
Tomorrow for episode number 1462, how to improve your relationship flexibility. And I'm not saying physical flexibility, because I'm not flexible enough to teach anybody how to be more flexible. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Stay on target. Next Level Nation.